Hey, everybody, thanks for joining me on the Rundown with Ramon. My name is Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com. Excited for this amazing conversation, which I suspect could span about leadership, about people, about hiring, about growth, about legacy, and so many other things. Larry Brinker Jr., glad you're with me today on the Rundown with Ramon. Thank you for your time, and I hope all is well in your world as we have this discussion today. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited to have a great conversation with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, Larry, can you just give us a full name of your company? And I know you're the owner of it, but the full name of your company, who you work for, and what you all do. Let's just level set that right at the top, who you are today.
Sure. Yeah, so the name of our group is Brinker, but we have five commercial contracting companies that are underneath that umbrella by the names of LS Brinker Company, Brinker Team Construction, Universal Glass and Metals, City Carpet and Flooring, and Edgewood Electric. And we do everything from construction management, general contracting, metal stud and drywall, carpentry, flooring, and glass and glazing, and electrical. I don't know if I said electrical the first time, but
That's a lot to do for sure. But thank you so much. And right at the top, if I may, I want to give honor and legacy to your father. I know it's a 30-year-old, give or take, company, and you're running it now. But can you just talk a little bit about him, about legacy? We'll see where that goes. But I just want right at the top. I have a lot of questions about leadership and marketing and how you build a construction business, how you thrive. But I'm just curious, me being a father and me being a son, I'm curious your perspective of you now running the business and standing on his shoulders, and of course you being an accomplished man yourself. But can you just pull on that thread a bit and honor your dad?
sure. Sure. So I love telling the story because I wouldn't be sitting in this seat if I didn't have the opportunity to be standing on his shoulders. I'm super grateful for all of the work that he's put into it. And quite honestly, his story is that American story. At the age of 21, he decided that he was going to look at a career outside of school and decided to pursue carpentry. And he walked into a carpentry company that was not too far from his home in Pontiac, Michigan, which was a predominantly urban city. And he walks in to interview and, well, apply for a job. And the lady at the front desk said, "Hey, sorry, honey, we're not hiring right now. Come back some other time." Just as he's leaving out, the owner of the company was walking down the stairs and heard the tail end of the conversation and pulled him back in the door and said, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes? I want to talk to you." And so my father said, "Yeah, sure." And he goes up to his office and he says, "I've had this company in Pontiac, which is an urban city, a lot of people of color. I've been trying to find employees of color and I've had a hard time. So I want to give you a shot. But construction's hard. You may not make it, but it's extremely hard. And I'll start you out as a truck driver. And if you show up every day and work hard, I'll give you an opportunity where I'll sponsor you to go to apprenticeship school. And if you graduate apprenticeship school, I'll sponsor you as a journeyman carpenter for my company." And my father took him up on it. He left out super excited. And his mindset was he was going to be the best value employee that the owner had because he wanted to do everything possible to make this work. And if that meant doing things that were outside of his job scope, he was going to do it to prove his worth. And so the owner held up his end of the bargain, and my father started out as a truck driver, worked hard. He sponsored him to go to apprenticeship school. He graduated. He then became a journeyman carpenter. From there, he became a foreman, which is a leader of various crews. And then he became a superintendent where he was managing the entire field of carpenters for this company. And then 10 years after doing that, he decided he wanted to create his own business. And he decided to do so and made his mind up. And he created Brinker Team Construction, which is a carpentry company. And the rest is history. So from there, he had the opportunity to create 3 additional companies, being a general contracting operation, a glass and glazing operation, and flooring operation. And then for Edgewood Electric, we acquired them during the downturn in 2009, 2010. And so I always tell people, as you go through your daily life, the most precious thing we have is time. It's the most valuable. You can't buy it, you can't sell it, you can't trade it. But people will forget your accolades or your success or how much money you had. But the one thing they'll never forget is the time you gave them or how you made them feel. And so I always tell people that as you go through your life, be cognizant of giving people a moment of your time, because you never know how that may change the trajectory of their life or their family's life. And if it wasn't for that 5 minute conversation, I may not be sitting in the seat today. So super grateful for all of the work that he's put in. Super excited for what we've been able to accomplish. Proud of that, but even more invigorated for what's to come as well.
Well, I just want to end right there. I feel like just having music queue up and yeah, that is beautiful, Larry. Thank you so much for sharing that. Three things stood out for me: show up, work hard, and your father, Mr. Larry Senior, wanted to be the best employee the gentleman had, when he hired. Do you think it? If not, no problem. But is that something that possibly the existing company that you look forward to, that you kind of echo maybe in some 2025 or 2026 version, but like, hey, dude, if you work hard, you show up, add value, you'll be good. Is that an ethos? Maybe a simple way that you run it today, possibly.
Absolutely. So, especially in today's climate, when you think about inclusion and diversity, I always tell people everyone should be granted an opportunity. But that's not a handout. When you get this opportunity, you have to work extremely hard. And most times you have to work harder than the next person. And so I always try to make sure that I am vocal in terms of hey, I am here to lift that next person up, because I wouldn't be here if we didn't have that opportunity. But also, you have to show up. You have to work hard, and it's not just showing up, but you have to show up the right way, right? And so, yeah, that's our ethos as a company. We are first and foremost a quality contractor that we're just so happen MBE. So the two owners of the company, myself and my father, just so happen to be Black, but we are just as qualified, just as capable as all of our competitors.
I love that. I
So
love
you
that.
have to show up.
Yes, you got to show up. Indeed, indeed. That's half the battle. And one more thing, just going back to Dad, and thank you for sharing that story, Larry, is that can you just talk briefly, or however long you want, before I get to today, just about maybe some of the highs or lows? I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stories, and if we had hours, we could do it. And I believe there could be
Oh,
some
absolutely.
I can reference, but just
Yeah.
maybe touch on some of the big milestones he went through, because construction's not like me, a podcaster. It's capital
Mhm.
intensive, it's people,
Yeah.
it's insurance. A lot could go wrong. Walk us through a few
Yeah.
big milestones.
Yeah. So before I even get to the milestones, I'll talk about a few of the lows, right? And I would say anything that's worth its salt or worth its success doesn't come easy. And he has told me stories where even him navigating through apprenticeship and being a journeyman and being in the trades was not easy, because people didn't want him there. And so there were times that they would have him go up to a second story that he had to use a lift for or ladder. He would get up there and do his work, and when it was time for break or lunch, they would take the lift or lift and move it out of the way, or ladder would be gone and he couldn't get back down, so he couldn't eat lunch. And they tried everything possible to push him out. And he persevered, and he stuck to it. And later on, he ended up becoming their boss, right? So those are some of those lows that it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be the best environment, but if you push through, good things happen. Um, in terms of milestones, I can vividly remember when they first started the business. I was about fifth grade or so, and uh, he didn't take a paycheck for for months at a time. There were times that we felt it at home. But then some of those major milestones were when he got his first major job, right? And the excitement that came with that. Just so happened it was the Charles H. Wright African American Museum, which is in Detroit. And we just celebrated our 36th anniversary in that same building, right? So the milestones came as he continued to build the business from the first big project to being selected to work on Tiger Stadium at the time, which was a major milestone, to opening up a second business and a third business. And then that went on to doing work for Ford and General Motors and their headquarters. So a lot of major milestones that I can think back to. But I would say, to me, the most important ones are the ones that we built in Detroit, where to this day we see being places where people belong and work, live, and play and have fun and come together in, I would say, unity to this day. And that's 30 plus years later, and people are still in these spaces and enjoying the spaces and enjoying each other as well.
Thank you, Larry, for that. I appreciate it very, very much. I'm curious as well, today as you're running the company and things of that nature, and feel free to unpack what you're doing today if you like, but I'm curious, what value are you adding? What do you bring to the company based on your father's legacy? You know, father and son, or daughter and son, or children and parent. There could be conflicts. There could be different things that are happening. So curious, help us bridge that journey when you took over, when you got into leadership. What is your relationship professionally with your dad? So just talk a little bit about that. Of, you know, Larry may say, hey, we're going to hire 50 more people, and Mr. Larry Sr. may be like, nah, not a good idea. Walk us through like that, please.
Sure. So before I jump into that, I'll just share a quick bit about my journey of how I landed in the seat, because it plays into that answer. I went to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, majored in civil and environmental engineering with a concentration in construction management. So I went to school for this. And as I entered the company, I held just about every role in our construction management company, from project engineer, project manager, superintendent, estimator, the list goes on, biz dev. And then when my father decided it was time to begin to train me for leadership, he actually went out and hired someone that was not within our company at the time, that had recently sold his company. And he brought him in for a 4-year term to train me in those 4 years. And so it was the best thing that ever happened. I went from year one to being a sponge and just with a notebook. If I heard something I didn't understand, I wrote it down, to year two, kind of understanding things. Year three, I was making decisions for the company with him as a backstop. He would tell me if I was right or wrong. And then by year four, he was a figurehead, and I truly was running the business. And so it was easier for me to transition into that role of president. And it also helped my father and I navigate through the transition too, because we're still father-son, but we were also at that point co-workers in a way of different than if I'm here and he's here. And so through that, it allowed me to really have clarity of the vision that I wanted for the company. And so the first thing that I focused on was professionalizing the organization, because we had tremendous success, but it was basically in a way where they were making things happen, but it wasn't a lot of strategy going into it. And so I focused on strategy. I focused on identifying the risk and figuring out how to mitigate that risk. And I built an executive team so that it wouldn't just be me. Because I noticed with my father, everyone would say, Larry, what do you want us to do? And he would make the call. And if it didn't work, they would say, well, Larry told me to do it. And so I wanted to focus on accountability and make sure that people had autonomy, but they were also accountable to each other and accountable to the company. So I structured that. And from that, we created strategic business plans that are rolling 5-year plans. Everyone kind of came into alignment where from the group level through every company, every employee, we were marching in the same direction as well. And through that, I was able to grow the company by 400%. And so it's been extremely successful. We've taken 5 companies that were kind of their own silos and operating independently to now we operate as one group that still has the 5 companies, but now we work closer together with each company. So it's been extremely successful. It's helped me because by me having that clarity of vision and being able to communicate that to my father, he understands. He also understands that the way he ran the business is not necessarily the way that the business needs to be run now, and that there's various life cycles to a business. And so it makes it easier where I'm not having those uphill battles of saying, hey, I want to introduce technology and it's going to cost this, and I get pushback, but it's more of, I get it. I may not understand the technology. This is what he tells me. I may not understand the technology, but I understand that you need this to continue to push the group forward. And so from that perspective, I've been very fortunate. I never dealt with I would say some of the stories that you hear from G1 to G2. I've been fortunate to not have to deal with that. I would say, once again, the journey is not always easy. For me, I think the toughest part in that transition was going from being a like an employee and coworker to now I'm the boss. And so the same people that I would go hang out with for lunch, now they sneak out the building and don't invite me. Or quite honestly, even the fact of the people that were my father's team, right? The way they thought and their mentality wasn't always aligned with mine. And so it took time to kind of build my own team. And I've been able to do that. And it's been great. So I give credit to my father of being able to be confident within himself and comfortable to give me these reins and do what I need to do to continue to operate the business and grow the business, but also just understanding that the one thing that's always going to be constant and consistent is change. And if you look at our group now compared to where we were when I took over, man, it's been 11 years now. It's totally different.
Well, I think that's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Larry. I'm curious. It sounds like maybe you've gone through this process. And again, I love how you honor him, but through the process of good to great, of building the company, the group, to last for the next 100 years. Those are my words, but am I picking that kind of up? That was the first 10 years or something you focused on. This has to last for the next 100 years, or Jim Collins type.
Absolutely.
Or other author. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And when you have the mindset of making sure that you are creating a strategic vision, you may not know what the tip of the iceberg looks like when you're planning it, because you may think you're going to go from A to B, but it may take you in zigzag, but you're going up each way, each milestone, you're continuing to scale. And for me, I would say the best thing that happened was when we created this strategic vision, we had plans in place of what we wanted to do, and then the revitalization of Detroit happened. And that completely changed the outcome for us, but our vision didn't change, right? And so the best part about that is now we can drive through the city of Detroit, and out of all of the major projects that have been done to bring Detroit back, the Brinker Group has been involved in probably 85% of those projects.
Nice.
Right. So it's an awesome feeling when you can see the mark and the legacy that you've left on a city, because that truly doesn't happen often. And so we stayed true to our vision. We pivoted at times, but we remain confident in the path forward, and it paid off for us.
I love that. Larry, again, good talking with you today. Appreciate it. Curious, can you talk a little bit about the power or about risk? Overall, maybe just talk to entrepreneurs about taking risk or not. We'll see where you fall on that question. Particular,
Yeah, so I am through and through an entrepreneur, so I am all about risk. But you have to, so with risk, anything you do, for the most part, there will be risk, right? And some things you can remove. So if you talk about a contract, yes, you can go through a contract, mark it up. Some risks you can get taken out. But oftentimes, you're not going to be in a position to remove all of your risk. But what you have to do is be able to identify the risk and then come up with a plan to mitigate it, right? And so that is one thing that we focus heavily on, especially being not only a construction manager and general contractor, but because we have self-performed companies, we take a lot of risk on a daily basis. We have over 400 plus employees, and every day we want to make sure they come back home to their families safely. We want to make sure that the work is being put in place when we say it's going to be put in place. If not, it's a risk on us. But every step of the way, regardless if it's our core business of construction, if it's our family office and alternative investments, if we're standing up new entities associated with our core business, everything we do, we make sure that the first thing is to build the right team, and not only build the right team, but make sure we have people in the right seats on the right bus, not just on the right bus, but the right seats on the right bus. And then we have that clarity of vision, and then we identify those risks and figure out what do we need to do to mitigate those, because they're going to be there. But how do we make sure that we just go into it eyes wide open? And if we come up with that plan, and we stick to that plan, once again, we may have pivots, but you will be in a position that the risk won't necessarily sneak up on you and blindside you, but you can see it coming, and you can make the necessary adjustments needed to make sure that you can keep charging forward.
No, that's powerful. Thank you, Larry, for that. Curious as well. I'm assuming you all cannot coast and just sit by and relax, but you're a large enough company, I'm guessing, that things are going okay. But I guess another way to ask the question is, what do you worry about? Do you worry every day about something, or is it more like, Ramon, I keep thinking of every 5 years, every 2 years? What are things that you're like, ooh, this has to go right, or things you may worry about, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked this question, because it's a real feeling that I've felt, and I just recently read this yesterday, actually, that there is a quote that says complacency basically breeds failure, and if you are consistently paranoid, right, you will typically be successful, right? And I look at it the same way. When I stepped into the role of president and CEO, the first thing that concerned me was risk. Was we had been fortunate to not have encountered certain things, but I don't necessarily think we were prepared or best prepared to mitigate those, and we were just lucky. And so the first thing that I did was make sure that we could address those risks. Secondly, I think for me as a business owner, is you are always worried. You're worried that the economy may tank. You're worried that your staff may leave. You're worried that your clients may not hire you. You're worried typically about things that you can't control, because the things you can control, you're comfortable with. And it's like driving a car. When you're driving that car and you're in control of that car, you're comfortable. If you're in the passenger seat and someone's driving and they're fat, they're like speeding and weaving, you get worried, right? And so for us as business owners, I think it's truly worrying about those things that you cannot control. Like right now, there's talks about the tariffs and the economy and everything else. And yes, there's a worry there, but what do? We look at what those risks are and we mitigate them. So we've done things where we pre-purchase equipment. and things that are needed for projects to make sure that we can price lock it in now. And so once again, you can't always control everything, but you can try to put mechanisms in place to help protect you as best as possible.
Yeah, is that kind of in the realm of thinking ahead, possibly, and understanding, as I guess the
Being
famous
proactive and not reactive.
yes,
Yes,
yes, where the puck is going and not where it is, something like that.
right.
What is your day-to-day management style, Larry? Walk us through that. Well, first question is, do you have morning habits, and what are they? What's the habit in the first few hours of Larry? And then what's your
I
style like?
do.
Tell us a bit about yourself day to day, either personally, but also professionally. Walk us through
Yeah,
the day in the life
sure.
of Larry.
Um, I would say for me, just one of my biggest habits is I just never turn it off. I've been in Dubai, I've been in the Maldives, I've been wherever, and I'm checking emails, I'm returning emails. So I never turn it off. But I would say for me, my daily habit that settles me down every morning is I wake up and before I do anything else, I read the two newspapers in Detroit, and then like in order, and then I read ESPN, and then from there I get up and I go. Right, that settles me down, gets me ready for the workday. But I would say my daily management style is very much, and I learned this from my father. My father is not an overbearing manager or a person, and I truly feel that if you arm people with the confidence through autonomy, and as long as you give them swim lanes, but let them have the autonomy, there's more accountability, there's more excitement, and that's what I try to do. So regardless if it's managing the group as a whole, I try to make sure that I'm getting their input on a daily basis. If it's just a typical workday, I'm not a hovering manager to be over their shoulder saying, well, what are you doing today? Or did you get this done? But I built a culture that is one that everybody holds each other accountable, including myself. And so daily style is very much one of just being a team player and trying to bring levity and fun to the daily workday for not only our employees but our clients because it's a hard industry. And if we can laugh and have fun in the process of it, it makes it even better.
I love that. I'm curious, and I'll pause again just so I can cut this. Larry, can you hear me okay now? Is it still, is it
Yes.
okay? Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Okay. Larry, I'm curious, do you consider yourself a black construction firm, black, construction group, or a construction group? And you hinted it already beforehand, and I'll just go first. I'll tell you myself, as a
Mhm.
black man, I've
Mhm.
always worn the label of I'm just the best motivational keynote speaker in the world. End of story. Full
Mhm.
stop. I happen to be a
Yeah.
black guy, but again, some
Right.
of my peers they pull a different thread. For them it's I'm a black speaker and et cetera. And no, God
Mhm.
bless everybody. But I was just curious for
Mhm.
you and your group and your company, how do you position yourself talking to the mayor, going wherever you are, flying to Dubai? Do you carry that with you, or is it no? We're just the best Detroit construction firm. How do you answer that? What do you see yourself as?
Great question. So I will say we are proud to say that at this point we are the largest Black-owned construction company in the country, which is awesome.
That's a
But
distinction for
what
sure.
I'll say is in 2018 we made an intentional decision to rebrand Brinker. We hired a very well-known marketing company to help us with this, and we removed anything that said minority business, enterprise, MBE from any of our markings, any of our logos, brochures, all of
In
it.
2019,
Because we,
in 2019.
2018, yeah, and we
Right.
wanted to make sure that we were positioning ourselves as first and foremost, a quality contractor, and we just so happen we're Black.
Yeah.
And even as we win work because of our capabilities, our experience, our staff, and our know-how. And if you need a certificate on top of that,
Yep.
great, we have it. It's here for you, but we don't lead with a certificate saying hire us because we're Black. because we've seen companies lead with that, and more power to them. It's just not how we operate, but we've seen them get pigeonholed and not be able to sustain the times going forward or build their business the right way in construction because of that. And we didn't want to be that company. So going back to even risk of what you asked, we've always taken the risk. If we are on a job, it's our staff, it's our money, it's our risk. Whereas we have seen sometimes people want to maybe shortcut the system and put their name on something to get a few dollars and not take the risk, and it's a silent partner. And usually what happens is when that rug is yanked from beneath them, they don't have a business to like kind of push forward. And so every step of the way we've been cognizant of that, and we make sure that whatever we do, we're taking the risk and we're going to take the reward with it as well.
I love it. Larry, one more question for you. And again, feel free, if I didn't ask you anything, I'll give you time to jump in and mention anything you wanted to mention. But what is your message to today's entrepreneurs? And I know it's a very broad question, but we got TikTok. We even got this thing called AI. We got microwave popcorn. It's not the day of your dad or maybe even when you and I were growing up a bit. It's different times.
Yeah.
Are things the same? Have they changed? And overall, just feel free to take a few minutes. What's your message? I want to build a $5 million company, Larry. Or maybe I want to build a $2 billion company. Give us some thoughts that you would say today. You're starting from scratch. Larry's got nothing in his pocket, but he's got to build the next whatever company you want. What would you tell yourself?
Yeah, definitely different than it was, I would say, when my father started our business.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at our environment, right, everything's fast. Where if you want food, you can DoorDash or call, right, and it's there. If you want a car, Uber is there, right? If you want to lose weight, people are taking shots to lose weight. If you want to do X, Y, and Z, it's quick. And I think new entrepreneurs think that they can do the same thing quickly, right? And when you build a business, it's not quick. That's the first thing. I would say deposit really the meaningful resources needed to build genuine relationships. So deposit those, because a lot of people look at things as purely transactional. Hey, how are you? I'm Larry. May I get some work? Right? Whereas if it were me, I'm going to know who you are. I'm going to learn about your kids. I'm going to learn what you like, what makes you tick. And I'm going to try to find that common thread that we share to build on that and build a genuine relationship. And people like to do work with people they like, right? And so if you can figure out how to find some commonality and build a genuine relationship, the work will come. The other piece that I'll say is really like just try to put the right people around you, build the right team. Because yes, I sit in this seat, but if I didn't have the team that I have, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. I wouldn't have the success that I've had. They make me look good. And so if you talk to any major entrepreneur, they'll tell you it's not them, it's their team. And they built the best team and to be the best role player for what their job entails. And if you execute on that, good things happen. But as you build that great team, you have to, once again, have that clarity of vision. You have to know which mountaintop you're trying to get to, right? You like which one, right? And once you figure out which one you're trying to get to, once again, the path may zigzag up that mountain, but you're still going to that same point. Whereas if you don't have that clarity of vision, you may be over here one day trying to do this, the next day you're over here, and you're burning resources, you're burning relationships, and you're not moving the needle. The other thing that kind of goes in line with that one of my favorite books is 10x is greater than 2x,
Mhm.
right? And so figuring out what are those real things that move the needle 10x, and so you don't end up having yourself and your employees on a hamster wheel churning, 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 and you're only moving 2x, right? And then I would say the last thing is just don't be afraid to fail. In lieu of using the word failure, I would say don't be afraid to learn,
Mm.
because um, things aren't always going to go right. And part of that experience and wisdom and knowledge for you to be successful will come through those shortcomings, and you learn from them. And if you can learn from it, it makes you better, it makes your company better. And so, yeah, so those are probably the main points that I would throw out to an entrepreneur that's entering this for the first time, or some that are already in it. But the business is always bigger than you, and the business is always bigger than you. And I would say one thing my father told me too, just to wrap up, is I remember when I first started working for the business, one of my college buddies that was in the program with me at Michigan worked for us too. And after about 5 years, he decided he wanted to get his MBA and go into finance. And I was devastated. Like, oh man, I mean, I've known this guy and I got him this job and now he's leaving. Like, what? My father told me, he said, look, one thing that you have to always remember is that people will come and go in the company, but the business never stops,
Mm.
right? So don't be afraid that if you feel you don't have the right person in the right seat, to get the right person to put in that seat. Or don't be afraid that if like the life cycle of the business has outgrown them, or vice versa, for that person to leave. Because typically what happens, and I can speak on personal experience, every time someone has left our company has gotten better because the replacement has been better than the person before. And that's no knock to like people, but it's just the various life cycles of business. The people that were here to help my father start his business probably wouldn't be the best people to be here today, and vice versa. So just don't look at things as absolute, but just be flexible and nimble, and be willing to learn, and be willing to know that it's not about you, and be willing to give people the autonomy to build confidence and accountability.
I love it. A masterclass, a masterclass. Larry, anything I didn't ask you, anything you wanted to touch on, to talk about today? And we can always have another discussion, a few months from now, but anything I didn't ask, anything you wanted to touch on today?
Um, the the only thing I would probably say is, because I hear this often, is just everyone wants to build wealth, right? And that's great. And there's no one way you do that, right? And if you look at construction, is not a glamorous industry. I know people that sell futures on tomatoes, right? Like, it's just some weird things, but people make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I would say the biggest thing is chase your passion, because if you're passionate about something, you're going to work harder in those dark hours or those low points. You're going to persevere, and you're going to be resilient to get through those. But if you're only doing it for the money, typically you're not going to work as hard. When you hit those rough spots, you're going to say, "Oh man, all right, well, I'm on to the next thing," right? But if you do something that you're passionate for, the money will come. And that's what I try to tell people all of the time. Is just, if you want to be an entrepreneur, think about what you enjoy doing. If you're just trying to think about it for how much money you can make, it's probably not going to work. So that's what I would kind of leave folks with, is just be passionate in what you do.
I love that. Love that. Larry, one more time, can you give us your full name and the name of the group or your affiliation one more time? Let's hear that from you again,
Yes.
please.
Yes, Larry Brinker Jr., Our group is Brinker, and I am the president and CEO.
Awesome. Larry, thanks so much for being with us today on the Rundown with Ramon. I appreciate you. Blessings to you and your family, and Brinker as well. Thank
You
you
as
so much for
well.
being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.